Okay, did everybody get what I said? Okay, I'll just go on stage and do it. Okay, the thing is, not all Android phones can do it. So, so not all Android phones can do it, but you can try. Maybe your Android phone can. So you just go to camera, like I said earlier, go to camera and place your camera over this barcode like this. You know, with good lighting.
For those that your phone cannot do it, you can go to Google and search Google Scanner. Then use the Google Scanner to scan it. Yeah, it works.
So, are we clear now? Are we clear now? Thank you very much. So when you scan it, you see show options. Click on show options, open in browser, and then download brochure will come up. That's it. But if your phone cannot do this, just go to Google Scanner and scan it. Thank you all so much.
Can we have music?
I was listening to what that woman was saying yesterday. They know their point, but they can't bring
technology. And if we do not, as a group, as a people, quickly take our seats in that classroom of global technology, we may be left out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the panel session on evolution of investment in Africa. And to moderate this session, we have Osahon Oko, Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Strategy. A round of applause for him, please.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We have young people here now. Good morning. First of all, apologies for the lights out. We'll be having a beautiful session today, and please, I want us to engage. We don't just want the speakers to come talk. Please engage. Write your questions down. There will be a session where we'll give you to come speak up, ask your questions, but please feel free. We know we have here people who are doing amazing things to get all together in the health space, in agriculture, in clean tech, that's renewable energy. Beautiful. Ask your questions. You are here to learn. Are we together? Are we together? So we have 40 minutes for this session. Please put your phones on silence. We want you to have a beautiful experience. Let's curate this together. Also, I would love us to, like I said, put your phones on silence. Please, put your phones on silence. Write your questions. If something is not clear, get ready to ask questions. We're going to spend a bulk of our time on question and answers. Are we together? Are we together? Awesome. So I won't be taking this alone. In fact, I'm not the expert in tech, I would say, or in startup. But we have amazing people here, resource persons who have done this for a period of time, and they'll be sharing their thoughts on key areas and aspects. Okay. First, I'll be welcoming Mr. Emmanuel Asika. Just to give a little context to who he is, Emmanuel Asika is currently the statutory director and country manager for HP Nigeria. He also oversees the omni-channel business for HP Africa. Now, when I say HP Africa, I'm referring to Central and East. He brings to the table here over 17 years experience. Yes, he has a BA in English and also an MBA from Warwick Business School. Please welcome on stage Mr. Emmanuel Asika. I'm sure the Edo welcome is much more livelier than this. Also here, how many of us were here yesterday? Did you get value? You got value, right? Also welcoming on stage is Princess Edo Osage. Just to give a little bit of context, Princess Edo Osage is passionate about using technology to solve everyday problems. A DevOps advocate, payment expert, agile approach with over 14 years of experience. Please welcome her on stage. Like we said, this is going to be fun, and as much as possible, we want to make it very interactive. Just to bring a little bit of context to what we are doing. This is a tech conference, right? And we all know that within a tech ecosystem, you have the different components that make it up. You have infrastructure, to talents, to startups, and a whole lot around that. But the context of our conversation here is around startup. Right now, from last year's data, we agreed that Africa as a whole has generated, or attracted, sorry to say, over $4 billion. The question now, what's making Africa that place or that destination center for startups? Within just 2022, we are looking at, the projection is going around $7 billion for 2022. That tells you that if people outside are coming, of which most of the investments are from outside Africa, there is something here in Africa that we may not be seeing. But the beautiful thing is, lots of these investments are going to the big four. When I say the big four, Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and I think I've forgotten another country. But another thing, Edo State. Edo State. What's about Edo State? Today we have amazing people who do amazing things. Well, just right there I saw Cindy. Cindy is a hospital management software. I've never met them before. And sharing what they're doing is quite amazing. We have Mobicure. Mobicure is one that I've had a lot of success. But just to start, what is a startup? When you say startup, what's a startup? This is the first tech conference we're having in Edo State. So a lot of questions I'm going to bring is going to be more of a fresher level before we get to build on that because of the people we have here. When you say startup, what is a startup? I think I would love to start with Mr. Emmanuel.
Well, I should say, first of all, good morning to everyone. I hope you guys have had fun so far. And, you know, it's quite exciting to see a lot of young people gather together in the same room every single time. There's a lot of hopelessness, in quotes, in the nation today. But I think this gives us the belief and gives us reason to hope that things will get better. And I'll probably elaborate on that a bit more when I do my own slide presentation. I don't want to give any technical definition to the word startup. A startup is someone who's starting a business, to be honest. And typically you are starting from ground zero, you know, from the ground up. And I know that one of the major conversations that startups would have would be how to, first of all, break ground, break even, and then sustain the business, all right? And I think that becomes the major challenge of making a startup succeed. I was speaking to, I don't know if I should mention his name yesterday, Vendor Space, I can't remember his name, but he told me that he's done this for 2 years. And I told him, you have 1 more year. And I said, why? I said, because most businesses fail after the 3rd year, all right, because he's a startup. And those are parameters, and they may not necessarily be hard and fast rules. But, you know, by the time you are able to get through that curve, then the possibility for you to succeed becomes even higher. All right, so I said to him, you have 1 more year. And so when you get that under your belt, then we can then be talking about viability of the business. Some people, you know, get that transition and even quicker, you know, but for the sake of continuity and sustainability, which I think should be the key for any business, then clearly you have to have the foundations right, okay? So no technical definition for startup, except maybe Princess has something else to add, but it's starting a business from ground zero, pretty much.
So not much to add. As you said, it's a business that is just starting up, but the conditions that you find yourself in is most likely that you haven't done this before, you have a fancy idea you think you want to play out with, you may not have the funds, but you have the passion to be able to push through the first few years of difficulties. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. So that means that if you have an idea you're passionate about, an idea you're passionate about, you know you want to go about, you want to pursue it as a solution, you can actually build something around that, right? Yeah. Awesome. Now, there are a lot of investments in Africa, and it's quite, in fact, when you go on Twitter, it's like you hear company A raised so and so, company B raised so and so. And I had a conversation recently with a group of friends to make them understand that this money, it's not their money, it's investors' money. But one thing that strikes me more is what's in Africa that we may not be seeing that other VCs around the world are seeing? What are the potentials? What are those untapped areas? And what should we be looking out to on a broader scale?
So I think personally, Africa, Nigeria has a younger demographics of people in terms of those in the working age. And what you see is that people have a lot of ideas, and in your young age, you want to try out stuff. I think we've been blessed with that. I think we take it for granted sometimes. But with youth comes energy and drive, and a lot of people are trying out stuff now. Also, because of the age of information, which means access to information is a lot easier now than it was before. Access to technology, back in the days, you didn't have access to a server. You would have to have a physical server in your building, but because now you have access to compute online in the cloud, a lot of people are able to try out stuff faster. So I think those things combining with our age demographics is giving people the opportunity to try out stuff. And the world is realizing that the world is big, really big, and there's a lot of opportunities across board. So I think that's what's happening.
Amazing. What do you want to? Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. We have a young population, and I think that goes without saying. And if you like numbers, 70% of our entire population is below the age of 30. All right, so that means that there's a lot of potential there. But I mean, because as a businessman, don't forget I sit at the head of a multinational for Nigeria. Despite all the challenges, we're not going anywhere, all right? And then the challenges are a lot, from policy, somersaults, from insecurity. You know, my family has been calling me every second now to find out if I've been kidnapped or not, you know? And the challenges are huge. I mean, we're here at NEPA, and we're joking. A lot of people don't know Up NEPA here, but in our generation, that used to be the sing song. All right, so the challenges are huge. I mean, you can't take that away. But we will still keep investing. And the question is why? There's still a lot of an untapped market in Nigeria. So we're 200 million people, and maybe I'm counting, in Nigeria. I don't know yet the data for Edo State, but it's something that we should look at. And, okay, so I'm in the laptop business, to put it rather simply. And we still have a laptop penetration of less than 20%. There's an 80% market still on tap. Why am I going anywhere? This is where I'm going to birth my, my ship. You know, so the market is huge. And please, let's not get this twisted. Talent is good, potential is good, but investors are interested in return on investment. That's the key. If we can't get that, there's no point. I mean, it's not humanitarian. It's not an NGO. They want to be sure that when they put their money in, there will be a commensurate return. Up until the pandemic, the ROI for Nigeria as a whole used to be 30%. And you can't get that anywhere in Europe. The growth in Europe is slowing down, it's stalling. So I think this is our time. This is the time for Africa. And so we need to rise up to the occasion. Few years ago, we had Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey find their way into Nigeria, despite the government. And again, we'll talk about that later on in the other conversations. Government is key. I think the only way we can scale anything is if government participates, and that's why I'm excited about what's going on here. However, despite government, we've gotten to where we are now. Yeah. And we are there because we are, and I'm not saying this because I'm in Nigeria, we are immensely talented. We are immensely innovative. You know, a lot of people who are speaking here, I'm fans, whether it's Piggyverse, whether it's Shola Amuson, whether it's Yamo, who is also from Edo State, with Bamboo. You know, these are absolutely crazy ideas, and I saw some absolutely stunning things as well yesterday that are available right here in Africa. So that's why investment will have to keep coming. But then we also need to be ready for it, and again, that's something that we're trying to do. We realize as well, one of the major problems we have with startups is that they do not know how to manage cash flow, something as simple as that. And that's why there's a propensity to fail. So you see, we need to create the foundation so that when this comes, I mean, look at some of the challenges that some of our fintechs are having in a place like, in America, so about 2 or 3 of them were arrested, not because they have ill intention, but because they just don't get their governance right. Same in Kenya, you know, and, you know, guys who are crazily talented are being, picked up for stupid things, I mean, simple things. And that's, if we get that right, honestly, it will be a positive explosion, even much more than what we have now. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good place to clap. There's a lot of opportunity, right? If you look at, from what has been shared now, if you look at our health sector, for example, we have a health sector that needs, I would say, an emergency, if you ask me. And if you look at our education, I know there is also the place of what government is doing, but governments can't literally do everything, right? But I see potentials in young people picking up those problems and building on it. And I understand that there's a perspective of, okay, I want to build, and I want to build so that I can get funding, so that I can blow. Am I speaking people's mind? Okay. So that's also is a perspective that I think I would love context to it. What's the mindset every innovator should come with when building? Because yes, you can have the money, you can have the talent, but there is more to it. You made mention of an element of it, which is governance, which is a very, very key area that has to do with building something that lasts, right? What's the mindset? What's the approach? I want to do this, I want to do this. What's the approach? What's the mindset in building something that would last?
Okay, so I'll say first is, while money is great, focus on solving a big need. Money will come, don't worry about that. If you focus on just money, 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 you will lose your way. So focus on the need, solve that big problem for people, and the rest will be easier. That's, for me, is where you need to put your head in first. Governance, as you mentioned, is absolutely key. And again, we are in the age of information. You don't need to give yourself too much headache. You just need to learn from what other people are doing. But governance is hard. It's very hard. People think it's easy. You need to get people who can give you guidance and support to help drive the governance you need at that early stage. And once you start it up with that, it's easier to grow and sustain it. So those are the two things I'll say.
Governance is hard. Trust me, I'm in that space already. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll just reiterate what Princess said. So you need to look out to solve a problem. I mean, I think and that's as simply said, and that's the best way to put it. You need to look to solve a problem, because it's in solving the problem that you get the, you can blow, all right? But it is nice to keep the blowing parts in your pocket and try to really solve, because in solving the problem, you would reinvent, you would metamorphose. That's an interesting word I heard yesterday in Jupsa. So you would completely reinvent yourself. And then because you know that you're doing this to actually solve a problem, you will be open to having advice, mentorship, getting the right set of people. And I think that's one beautiful thing that is happening here, and that's why I'm confident that Edo State, give it another 5-10 years, possibly outliving what the governor, has started.
Yeah.
It will actually become a reference point for Nigeria. Now, again, I don't know what's happening in other states. This is the only one that I'm privy to. But, you need to look at the myriads of problems in the health sector, in the food sector, and in so many places. Actually, if you want to look for problems, this is the best place in Nigeria to look for problems. And then pick one of those problems and then attempt to solve those problems. Then add tech into the mix, because I think tech is the future, tech is the world, and then see how you can, we're talking something about something as simple as even getting a database and making it smart, so that you can get feedback and all of that. And maybe we can talk about that later on, but if we can even solve something as little as that, the opportunities are immense, and then you will keep getting the investment. So one of the things that we're here to do, aside the fact that we're here to be your cheerleaders, to clap for you and to say, great job, we're also looking for opportunities as well to invest. I'm part of FI, Founders Institute, where what we do on a weekly and a monthly basis is just get people to pitch, startups, absolutely, to pitch, and offer guidance, offer stuff, but eventually to see which is investable, pretty much, all right?
Thank you. Did you get the last part? Did you get the last part? Innovators in the house, you get the last part. Awesome. Just before we continue, how many of us operate in the Fintech? You now want to get to the crux of the matter. Fintech, you're doing something around Fintech? Okay.
Should I raise my hand?
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. How many of us are operating within the EdTech space? EdTech. EdTech, yes.
I saw some yesterday as well.
What about health? Okay. Renewable energy.
That's green.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
That's a job of the future, by the way. Renewable energy. Something a lot of people are not looking at, but in the next couple of years, that will be almost bigger than a lot of industries that you see today.
Would you want to speak more around that?
Sorry?
Would you want to speak more around that?
No, not today, but I mean,
Okay.
and that's a tip.
That's a tip.
Follow.
Okay.
I mean, it's green jobs, right? So that's a tag there.
Yeah.
Trillions of dollars have been invested in green tech or green jobs, all right? And a lot of people are not looking at that. So one of the conversations we also want to have is, what are the jobs of the future? And then how can we be future ready, for the jobs of the future, all right? When I was growing up, there was nothing like cybersecurity. If you go to your father and say, I want to do cybersecurity, it's like, what the heck are you talking about, right? But now it's a job. It's a full-time job, well-paid job, right? So green jobs are also going to be stuff like, so Google it, learn about it. It's jobs that speak to sustaining the environment. It's a big, big thing that most multinationals are into right now. And that's just a key that, we should look at, yeah?
Amazing, amazing. So this is where we get to the crux of the matter. This goes to you now.
Okay.
You operate in the fintech space
Yeah.
for a while now. And one of the things we get to hear more is we are trying to create financial inclusion in Africa, And there are a lot of dynamics. I understand regulation is a big issue in Africa, right, for most fintechs. And there's what has been done so far. We have a lot of investment going into fintech. In fact, the part that struck me more is a huge part of the funding that have come into Africa, a huge part is going to fintech. So that tells you that speaks that there is more to what they are seeing, investors are seeing. But from an investor perspective, what would you look out for if you want to invest in a fintech company?
So it's down to the business case and the business model of the fintech and the problem they're trying to solve. With fintech, I keep saying that there are other tech industries to go into, but everybody wants to go into fintech. And I suspect because it has to do with payments, which is equal to money, everybody feels that money is across the different industries. So if you sit on the fintech space, the transactions happening across different verticals will still pass through you. So I suspect that's why there's a lot of funding going into fintech. But there are many opportunities beyond fintech. I feel people need to go beyond fintech and solve other problems. But again, what most people look at when trying to invest in organizations is what products and services do they offer, what is their business model, and how do they intend to scale their product across. So those are the things to look out for.
Okay.
How about you?
No, I'm just a customer for fintech. And I have some of the guy from Piggyverse just walked in, so I'm going to ask him, how is my money doing there? Yeah, right. But it's helped us a lot. So, initially we only had traditional tools of investment, but, the opportunities are getting wider by the day, and we're happy about that. Yeah?
That's true.
Okay.
That's true. Let me bring it down back home a little bit, right? When we started up, I made mention of the landscape of startups in Edo State from what we have, from the data we have available. We have some operating within health tech. We have some operating within edutech. And renewable energy, so a huge support system. I know a huge support system around what Edo Jobs is doing. Please put your hands together for Edo Jobs, I must say. So this is not I was not paid to do this advert, but please, if you know you are into clean energy, renewable energy, somehow you're doing something quite innovative, please reach out to Edo Jobs. Mr. Uwa is here already. There's a lot of innovation around that, a lot of support system that has been instituted to give you the support to grow. Yes, but if you look at what we have here, we have amazing people doing things in clusters. Part of the strategy that we have on ground is to create that community. Yes, we have this tech conference. Let people get to meet. Let people get to have conversations. Meet people who do what you do. But there is more. Like you said, governments have not done a whole lot around when it comes to startups, but for example, you made mention of Lagos. Lagos is doing a whole lot around that, right? What more would you advise? What are those areas you would say that Edo State could do or should take up to really create some level of visibility around its startups? No, it's for both of you, so anyone can come first.
So I think this conference is a good example of what Edo State should continue to do. But beyond that, I think the biggest thing with tech is creating opportunities and enabling people. So finding out how the government can support people, whether it's with policies, whether it's with a space where you can work freely, because a lot of those things sometimes is what consumes startups. So some people work from their houses. They may need just a free space to work in. So creating those hubs where people can go and be able to get stuff done, and creating that network. A lot of people struggle with finding good talent. And I know with the Edo jobs that is currently going on, you have a lot of people you get trained. You could then use that to fund some of the initiatives people are trying to do, because that gives benefits to the people on Edo jobs who are looking for experience. And the startups also need people to support and build their products. So again, it could be a win-win situation. So that's what I think.
Okay.
All right, cool. I'll add to that. So I think that some of the things that I've seen over the last 24 hours are completely unprecedented. You know, with the way, you know, the focus and, you know, breaking it down into biteable sizes. Someone is doing entrepreneurship, someone is doing mentoring, someone's, you know, I mean, it's stuff that I've never seen done before. So, and I think it's very commendable. One thing that would speak for Edo State would be results, right?
Results.
Good ideas are amazing, but then we need to see the results of that. I was at the event, I think the Godalo, or I can't remember, in Lagos, when the governor had a dinner with captains of industry.
Alagodaro.
Alagodaro, absolutely, yes. In Lagos. And, you know, a lot of the things that we saw, we'd never seen before. We never knew anything was happening in Edo State, and it took 6 years to get here, all right? And obviously, one of the things we asked at the time is, how do we sustain what's going on? And then there may be a political solution or a political bent to that conversation. But, you know, we are in a country where it's seen as a sin to continue what your predecessor is doing, because you just have to pull down the infrastructure and then start from the scratch. And so then the whole essence of governance is thrown out of the window. All right, so that's one question. And it was asked to the governor, by the way, so don't, I mean, it's not like I'm cooking this up. How do we sustain this? And then he talked about putting some of these things into law, you know, which I asked at JUPSA as well yesterday, so that we can ensure that there's some sort of protection. And obviously, you know, ensure that there's a successor who has the same type of thinking. But when I say ensuring that you have a successor, then you are talking about something that is not democratic, right? Okay, but I didn't say that. But then, you know, we need to be able to, because you see, it took 20, you know, we talked about it yesterday. So in India, you know, and I have to talk about the Indians now, right? In India, there's a revolution that you're seeing today in tech, in pharmaceuticals and whatever, that began with the government, all right, envisioning something. But it took maybe 2-3 governments for us to begin to see the fruition, of what exactly, you know, started over there. Same thing in Kenya, you know, I said that as well. They are on that path, you know, but I think that there will be some form of continuity. All right, so that becomes absolutely something that needs to be looked at, so that fantastic ideas don't just rise up and die, you know, without being sustained. That's one. Second is the marketing that I saw in Alagodaro, because that's exactly what it was. It's you saying, this is what I'm doing, right? You guys need to come and see it, all right? Because a lot of people don't know about it. So when you gather captains of industries, you gather people who will invest in you to say, let me come and have a look at this. And then someone talked about security. And then the governor mentioned that absolutely, you know, a lot of these things you guys don't know, but I sit in a security meeting every day where we are looking at how crime and insecurity is dipping on a daily basis. And that Edo State is relatively safe. And I have to add relatively safe. You know, so, and then you can then assure investors that things can actually happen here. And that's working. And then one other thing, and I think it's important because we talked about it yesterday when we started with Edo Jobs over dinner, is how do you measure impact? How do you measure impact? So that has to be done. I mean, it's not okay for you to say, you know, we are really impacting people, you know, we need to have numbers. I mean, and people need to see that this works. So how do we operationalize that so in a sense where we can actually say, we have these guys, we can track them. These are the guys who are coming out of this institution, and this is what they're doing all over the world. I actually did run into someone who is like an alumni of Edo Jobs, Edo Innovation, just randomly. And then we're talking about, because, you know, it's part of the thing we do when we are trying to see how we can, you know, help startups. And then he just mentioned that I actually went through Edo jobs and everything. But I don't know if you guys are keeping track of that, but we need to be able to measure that impact. I am working with, and I don't want to mention names, but a group of people who are able to tell me or tell us as HP that basis this investment that you made, we have been able to impact 500,000 people. All right? And they have the data to prove it. But that's something that I think needs to happen as well. So that when we're done here, we can be throwing those numbers, because it's also a marketing thing to say, these are the guys we've affected, this is what's happening. And obviously, then we can move on from there. Okay?
Awesome. Awesome. Please, let's celebrate that. We'll be expecting questions from us. I'm sure the ushers are around to help coordinate that, but if you know you want to write your questions down, that's just fine. Please write your questions. This is the moment where you get to ask a lot of questions. There is no question that is stupid, right? Ask questions, write them down if you don't want to come up. But before then, we have a challenge. I will not call it a problem. It's a challenge in Africa at the moment. We call it the Japa challenge. Yes. Everyone wants to leave. And of course, migration is a human thing, so you can't stop people from leaving. But from the context of a startup that is building something, how do you...
Because what you tend to see is that most times people get into work and just work, and the ideas and thought process, the design behind the system you're building is in that person's head. So putting in systems in place where people are able to document their thought process around the architecture of your product or the business model and why that is the approach you're using is absolutely critical. In case somebody leaves, the next person is able to come in and continue from where you stopped. That's one thing. The second thing would be, how do you encourage people to stay for a period? Because you're not going to, 1 year, 2 years may be okay for an individual to say, okay, let me commit to this. But people have to believe in that thing that you're building. So being able to convince people and say, guys, we know that we all want a better life, quality of life is good, but let's try this out, and this is the reason why I think we should go on this together. Finding that inner humanity in people beyond just Japa, because Japa is a personal decision, but you should be able to convince people to say, guys, there's this big problem, can we solve it together? It helps keep people in. So those are the two things I'll say.
Right, thanks. Yeah, and I think you're right. And this idea is not mine, by the way. I learned it when we were having the conversation yesterday. Train more people, and then you will not feel the impact of the Japa that is, that is caused by Sakpa. I don't know if you guys even know that. So train as much people as you can. We've done the maths, and I don't know if you have. Not more than 5% of the population will Japa. Not more than 5, because it's expensive. It's very expensive, and a lot of people will not be able to muster and muscle enough funds, except you want to go illegally. Yeah, but if you want to be able to Japa, you need a lot of money. And I'm talking about within 10 to 14 million. And then the question is, why don't I use that to invest into where there is an opportunity, to invest? And I don't take this, I'm not saying this to minimize, the crazy environment that we have to exist in. Someone says anytime a Nigerian walks into the room anywhere in the world, and this is a joke, an inside joke, people should just stand up and give them a clapping ovation. Because the things that we have to go through on a daily basis, it's absolutely absurd. And I understand why people want to leave for a better life. But there's opportunity, and that's what we're trying to say. There is great opportunity. And then you need a group of like-minded people. Another thing that is important, and HR struggles with this, every day is how do you get the right fit? And I think you talked about it yesterday, right? How do you get the right fit of people? So it's not just what they say, it's the entire outlook of life. If you have a group of people who are bonded together because they believe, and we used to be like that in the younger days, that they truly believe that they can make a change in Nigeria. And I'll talk about that maybe later on in my slide, but there's also something that needs to be done to restore us back to that point where people have a sense of belief in this construct called Nigeria, because it's flying, it's out of the window. All right, so if we can get, then you as a startup, if you can get that group, you know, that inner, because, you know, really you don't need to have a lot of staff as a startup, right? You just need a little core, and then I will say also try to outsource a lot of things that you don't need to be working on, all right? So when you have that and you get those kind of people together committed to a certain purpose, and there will be times when you will be thinking, do I persevere, do I pivot, or do I quit? Those questions will stare at you at some point during the business, and then you decide, do I pivot? But you need that, your human resources needs to be key. You need to be able to understand where they're going to, and then you need to communicate as much as possible. You need to bond as a family at the beginning so that you can grow your business. And then hopefully, and that's the word is hopefully, because there's no, and because then it's not even just jackpot for the sake of jackpot. It's actually people finding talent and then taking talent away. In my company, for example, the people who are jackpotting are moving to other parts of the same company. You understand? So it's not that they're leaving Nigeria and you know, I'm having a faith that I'm going to get a job when I get to the UK or to the US. It's that they are moving from one job to another. So there will be that, and that conversation is an even harder conversation. But then hopefully we can manage it if we just do some of the things that we have collectively said. Thank you.
So my extract from this is what Princess said is documentation, right? You have your documentation for all your processes, right? Like we said, it's not one size fits all, right? Training of more talents. Let's get more talents on board. What we're doing here is quite great. Let's get more talents on board. Also get the right fits. Get the right fits. I'm sure we have questions, right? I saw one hand there. Okay, so we'll take five for now. Number one, that hand has disappeared. You're number one, okay? Number two, number three. Okay, yes, number three, yes. Number four. I'm seeing two hands there, but let's have some level of gender balance. Yes. Yes, number three. I said number three, yes. Number four, okay. Sorry, is that a female? No, I want a female. Number five. I want it to be balanced, yes. Number five. Okay. So you ask your questions. You want to, yes, please. You come ask your questions. Okay. But while we wait for them, just a minute. There's an observation, a personal observation anyway. We have a lot of startups, right? Attracting lots of money. And when you look at the amount they spend, their cost structures, so to say, the amount of money that goes into infrastructure, because for us as a nation, we've not gotten it right. When I say infrastructure, Amazon Web Service, for me, it just rings something in my head, right? Let's say I'm getting in $1 million from investors here, and that's amount of money for Amazon Web Service, depending on what you're building, is going out. Yes, we've not done something right, but it's a concern. Now, we're expecting to have someone from government here, right? To give some level of context to that. It's a concern because somehow it shows that we have not really had a holistic grip on our ecosystem, right? Any country around the world, for example, the US, they have a holistic grip. Amazon Web Service because the US, right? And a whole lot. How would you advise, because we also have some persons in the room who are within the government space. How would you advise? I know Edo State is doing something around data. We're doing something around data center, establishing data center. But for the moment now, it's around government processes, handling government processes. How would you advise to ensure that a huge chunk of that capital that is coming is being used within the country, so to say, within Africa as a continent?
So today, I know there are data centers in Nigeria, Where I work, we have our own data centers, so the cloud was always something that was very far for us. But the skill set required to run a data center has jackpot too. So it's a tight situation, but I know there are certain organizations coming in to build local data centers here. I'm not sure what their cost structures are going to be, whether it's going to be in Naira or in dollar, but again, I think some companies like Microsoft are building data centers within Nigeria, but there's a skill set required to support that.
Great. Please, let's celebrate that. Yes, we'll take the questions. Number one. Are you ready, sir? Okay, sir.
Good morning. I'm Bright Osaragbo. And okay, we that are starting a business, in the educational aspect. Now, we are faced with, let me say, business name registration, patent, trademarks, and the rest. Understand? When you go to register, the money is just so huge, and if you don't, there are some things you are going to be faced. So I want to ask, is there any advice from you to us on how we can go about it? Because yesterday I was here hearing from Mr. Gubadia. We're talking about startup policy and the rest, startup act that was put in place. So I want to hear, how can we cope with this registration, patent? Because I make learning tools, learning and teaching tools. That's what I do. So I also need to have a patent for it and the rest of it. So going through all these processes, it's so alarming. So I want to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay. We'll take number two. Number two. We had number two from here. Okay. Number three, here. Yes, that's.
All right, thank you. I will ask my question from the agricultural sector. I am a poultry farmer. Particularly, I rear or raise birds. Now, in raising birds, we have the use of the synthetic drugs, which is the English drugs, for treating different sicknesses, ailments, and diseases. And also, lately, we also have the use of the organic treatment on birds or animals. Sometimes you are told that in the process of slaughtering, before eating, when you are using the synthetic or the English drugs, it takes a period of 10 to 21 days. You wait for the synthetic drug to expire in the system of the birds before slaughtering and eating. If not so, it becomes harmful or detrimental to the human health. So my question is, if the government now are aware that the use of synthetic drugs is harmful to the human health, what is their effort in encouraging the use of organic drugs on taking care of birds or other animals so that it will not be harmful to the human health?
Okay, thank you. Yes. Number three.
Good morning. My name is Testimony. So I'm just going to go straight to the point. You mentioned something, sir, on cash flow, where you were like, most startups have issues dealing with how they spend money, how money comes in, how money goes out. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm in a team where we are building something in prop tech. Can you hear me, sir?
I'm struggling, actually. I'm struggling to hear you.
Okay, so I said I'm in a team where we are building something in prop tech. So it's just a real estate idea for the 1%. And take, for example, we sell a property, probably a piece of land, and we get our own profit. But at the end of the day, you find out that you just put most of your profit, if not all, back into the business, trying to buy internet or sorting out office space or doing this, doing that. I'm a big fan of financial intelligence. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki mentions it all the time. But how do we manage cash flow for startups? Because at the beginning, it's almost like we have little to no investment. We do all the funding by ourselves. We pay for everything, basically. So what do you think we can do, sir, to deal with cash flow? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Number 4. I know number 4 was yes, it's female. No, a female. I remember very well. Yes, please. Sorry, number 5, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon. My question is, you mentioned that there are some areas in tech that are mostly overlooked, because if you look at the major aspects, you talk about finance, education, agriculture, and health. So my question is there are there other aspects apart from renewable energy you mentioned that one can focus on or like direct your attention to? And tied with that question is how can one define the line between tech and entrepreneurship? Because what I mean is sometimes there's this bias, when you say, oh, I want to go into tech, or it's either you must go into like the finance or like certain specific areas, but then you might have an idea concerning or regarding like a business, but then there is no, for me personally, based on experiences, like I find it hard on how I can like bring it into like the whole tech thing. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. And so yeah, that's my question.
Okay, just for clarity, the first question you asked is around what opportunities.
Yes, what other aspects apart from the major areas like finance,
okay.
health?
And how can you integrate tech in whatever you're doing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 5, yes, please. I know I saw her hand. Yes, please.
Okay, I'm speaking on the healthcare industry. Like you employ someone in an healthcare industry, you didn't tell the person that you are paying the person a very small amount for like the salary, and you didn't tell the person you are going to be training people in the advent of Jakba. You didn't tell the person you're going to be training people. So you employ the person, then you just from nowhere you bring people to train, and the money is not even enough. The person is just trying to, as a startup, is trying to just to help you in the business.
So, I'm sorry to cut you there. We can barely hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So I'm saying in healthcare sector, like you employ a person and you want to use the person to train people, like to train more people in your industry, but you didn't tell the person about such arrangements, and you're not paying the person enough for something like that, and your person is trying to help you in your business to boost up your business. We're not paying the person more, and you want to use the person to train more people. So is it wrong for the person to leave the business, like to not help you to train people?
Okay, sorry, if I heard it correctly, what you're asking is around human resource, HRO,
yeah.
And you are in a company and you were employed to work, and somehow your boss needs you to train people.
Yeah, no, sorry, it's not an HR, like maybe a nurse or a lab person.
Okay, yes, but you were employed and you were used to train other people.
But you didn't agree that to the boss. So
okay.
I'm just talking the advent of Jakba, like the person wanted to leave the industry.
Okay, thank you. So that's around HR ethics. Okay, thank you very much. Which would you go for first? So the first question was around the cost of starting a business. The cost of starting a business. And he talked about patents and a whole lot. Would you want to speak around knowing that most startups, they get to bootstrap and start everything by themselves? Probably, yeah. So how do you navigate the dynamics around that, yeah?
So I would say 2 things. It's either you find where you're making money to sustain your startup, because at that early stage, you may not have investors in it. So you either have to have a side gig that is funding your idea to be able to move forward. When it comes to patents, I don't think we are great at it in Nigeria. I know people can submit patents, and I know the process can be hectic. So I suspect that things around the startup bill and the communities to be able to push for those processes to be a lot easier for startups is critical for people. But they are patents today, but the process is quite lengthy and ridiculous. So you just have to manage for now until government makes things a lot easier.
Okay. I guess that was answered. Are you clear, sir? Okay, thank you very much. The next question was around regulations around agriculture. What I would say is the person to answer your question is not here, but obviously. But what I could say is there's a lot of regulation around that. There's a lot of issues around regulation, but meet us behind and we could get clarity on what you want, what your questions is. The next one is around managing cash flow. I guess, Princess, you're the best person to answer that. Then we have managing cash flow.
Managing cash flow.
Yes.
No, because I think what I heard was that it's the same thing about funding. So the money is really not enough, and to sustain the business. So then, how do you walk around that? I suppose that I think one of the things, and I'm happy that we have a lot of startups here who can actually give real life experience. But I know that one of the things that is important to do when you're starting a business is to keep costs low as much as is possible. You just have to ensure that you're spending only on the things that you absolutely need to spend money on, because otherwise the business will tank. And so many businesses start and fail based on that management of cash flow. So again, it's also financial literacy. How are you keeping your books? In between the monies that are coming in and the monies that are going out, and all of those interesting things that one needs to do, to maintain that. But it's a difficult thing, and that's the truth. I would advise as well that you get into some of the master classes that will be happening, where I'm not sure, but I think that we're going to be talking about financial literacy in some of them, so that you can get a better handle on that. But again, especially for my business, cash flow is top priority. We are cash rich, we have to be. We make projections based on the cash we have, not on the one that we are hoping to receive, which is also another important thing to learn in business. But ultimately, other than that, and again, I was just going to go to that question that was asked. It's about, the truth is that the statistics is that less than 1% of people will actually get seed funding. And that's the truth. I mean, we glorify all the guys who are getting it, blah, blah, blah. Put that according to the ratio of the people who are actually looking for it, it's less than 1%. So people really mobilize funds from friends and family. That's the best and the best way actually to start a business. But some of us will be lucky to get some other people invest, and but how many people? The rate of innovations and startups is much more than one could have imagined. And I suppose that also is a good thing. So funding is critical. And then one needs to find a way to navigate that path until you get your head above water. But that financial literacy, I think it's important, and I think that that's one thing that we're going to be looking at later on in this tech conference.
Awesome.
So to add to that, I think you should find ways to save money. So if you're building a product and you need a server, go and look for any of the cloud providers. They usually give you 1 year free. With the minimum server access. So that helps you save the cost you would have paid for a server on the cloud for 1 full year. And if you don't finish within 1 year, you find another provider who gives you another 1 year for free. So again, find ways to save money. Find your friends who you can pull in to say, guy, I just need you to help me do the UX design. Don't worry, we'll settle you later. You'll get by.
It's part of bootstrapping too.
Exactly.
It's bootstrapping. Okay, so we need to go now, but we'll go through just 2 questions. Mr. Emmanuel, you help answer this one. I won't read through, but let me just give a picture to what this person is asking, because it's quite long. You are building an app that obviously is against government policy. Somehow, what you're promoting is against government policy, right?
You need to be specific. Sorry, I said you need to be specific now.
Okay, so then let me just, an example of an app that goes against big tech policies in social media is Palia.
Sorry?
Palia, I don't know what this is. Okay, a truly free speech app that was taken down from App Store and Play Store. And the CEO is passionate about it. What is the advice for someone in that situation who is passionate about something that may go against policies? Yes, so I want you to answer it from the context of not just big tech companies' policy, but even maybe your country. What would you do?
Okay, so you want me to advise him on how to go against government policy?
He's asking that.
Okay. Honestly, I would say you should pivot the business and then look for some great idea. Some people know how to walk the fine line. Some people are very smart, how to walk the fine line between doing what you want and then not necessarily going against the law, but just, ensuring that you are just right there without actually breaking the law. I have no experience in that, by the way. And I can tell you that for free. And don't forget that, I'll give you an example. I don't know how many people have heard of M-Pesa. M-Pesa. It's a payment solution in East Africa, in Kenya. All right. It was not necessarily going against the law, but at the time that product was launched, the government didn't realize it was going to blow that big. All right? So it went under the radar until it exploded. So they were not necessarily breaking the law, but the regulation was not tight. Yeah. All right? And then they were able to exploit that. And at the time, the government was trying to catch up, was playing catch up to try to see how they could regulate it. But the government couldn't kill it because it had left the stables at the time. It's the same thing that, so we tried to replicate that in Nigeria, by the way, just so you know. I was working with Globacom at the time. We tried a lot of, it was called mobile money and all of that. But it didn't take off because regulation was aware of what it was. All right, and then obviously the argument was coming, is it a banking product or is it a mobile product? And because we never got to we never got to agree on what that was, and obviously adoption as well, it didn't work. I would say really, except you have that kind of product that has the capacity to take over, it's not necessarily breaking the law, but maybe the government regulation just wants it, because he talks about free speech. The government really wants to monitor. Even in America, that's an issue. All right. So if you have something that is not necessarily breaking the law, but you can circumvent regulation in a sense legally, then absolutely. But my advice would be pivot. There's so many ideas. I've seen a lot of them. The guy asked, there's food, there is, you not necessarily offering a product, but you just connecting people. There's so many ideas, and we can explore that in detail.
Awesome, awesome. The fourth question was around tech. How do you integrate tech into what you're doing? Like we said, I think Mr. Emmanuel answered that before. You're into agriculture. Tech is an enabler, right? Tech is an enabler for across all sectors. So I think that's clear already. On the HR, would you want to answer that on HR and ethics? I'm not in the HR space, but what I would say is when you get into a firm, ensure that your contract is clear. If there's anything you're not clear on when you're already in it, have a conversation and get clarity. So I think that answers that at best. Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to our facilitators here. This is huge. And mind you, if there's anything that you should get out of this, when we started, there was something I asked. Did you hear that? Who can remember that? You heard that? Please echo it. I didn't get that, sir. Financial investor, that person, you got it well. Please celebrate that. There is money. Literally, there is money. Please, the question now is, what are you doing? Do you have a structure in place? Right? Do you have a structure that can accommodate an investor? Because they are not doing charity. Literally, they are not doing charity. They want return on their investments. Thank you very much. All right.
Got no money in my pocket and my head's a mess. Can't stop the talking that's inside my head. train just to live. I called up my boss and he's unimpressed. I'm the middle of December and the sun don't shine. I need a little warmth and it's hard on mine. 7 days of running, been a week from hell, but you call me up, I can't help myself. I smile, can't help but smile. You make me smile when my fortune's fading, smile when my luck is down, smile when my heart is aching, smile when you come around, smile when I'm tired of hoping, smile when I feel afraid, smile when my spirit's broken, smile anytime you come my way. And my hands are tired from holding on, trying to make it.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? All right, good afternoon. You're about to listen to some amazing ideas. It's a continuation of what we did yesterday. We held an hackathon during this weekend, and today is dedicated to people building for healthcare in Edo State. Put your hands together for that. Without further ado, I'd like to invite to the stage Amazing Bloom. Amazing Bloom, come on.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and dignitaries here on site. We are very much happy to have you as we want to pitch our idea. We are Team Amazing Bloom. My name is Ikechi. Here with me, the team is Zinat Sani, Abdullah Aliu, and Waris Salami. All right. The rise in medical negligence has actually gone in the increase in the past few years, not only in the urban area, but especially in the rural area. Edo State is not an exception. The prevalence of preventable infectious diseases, when it comes to slow responses, when it comes to medical emergencies, and even proximity to medical facilities, has actually posed challenge. And that is why my team and I has come up with a wonderful idea we call Edo First Aid. Edo First Aid is a unique one of its kind, particularly because of the challenges when it comes to health. First and foremost is the proximity to medical services. One of the reports that was carried out recently by Dr. Akposi and others showed that the rise in medical negligence has gone on the increase. Particularly, this has resulted to a lot of cases of death in Edo State. Then, the other point, medical negligence. Medical negligence is a two-way thing. Foremost, professionals at times treat patients with a little bit of disregard. The Premium Times newspaper in April 6 pointed out this, and even the House are looking into it. That is why we are looking at this idea. Also, medical negligence can come for patients to themselves, especially in the rural area. These people tend to feel that problems they experience will just efface out on their own. Other times, they may feel reluctant to want to expose their private problems with others, and that is why Edo First Aid is here. Proximity to primary health care center services during emergency. We are looking at providing opportunities to ensure that emergency services will be carried out. So what is the objective of Edo First Aid? One, we want to develop an effective system that would carry out emergency responses. Secondly, we want to enlighten Edo citizens, people in the rural area, to have first-hand information of outbreaks, pandemic information, so that they will be up to par with the necessary information they have to be on to become people that will be medical alerts as well as also protect themselves. And finally, we are looking to develop or upgrade a medical center API whereby specialized hospitals that attend to unique cases will be on the app, thus ensuring that things that has to do with health, health challenges will be carried out effectively. Now, what are some of the solutions we are looking at? To tackle medical emergency, we want to bring out a reporting system that will help patients after receiving services in healthcare centers such that they will have the liberty to express themselves. And this informed information, either positive or negative feedback, would help people to make better decisions about those healthcare services. Secondly, we are looking at having a team pool of professional doctors because we are talking about health here. We don't just want to give garbage information. We want to give authentic information. So doctors will be readily available, specialized doctor, to help these people, give them first-hand information about what they need to do at the right time. Then the API system, we want to have a grid location whereby from wherever you are and you turn on our app, it points you to the nearest hospital, also considering the fact of people with good rating in comparison to your location to help you decide which hospital you want to attend to. And finally, because we know the people we are targeting are rural dwellers, these people may not have smartphone. We are looking at implementing a USSD feature that will carry all the things that have to do in a smartphone. Then, this is just a sneak peek of what the app will look like. This is the onboarding stage, and after the onboarding stage, we come to the next stage that has to do with the app. The treatment aspect of the app will comprise of some common localized sickness that are faced by Edo citizens. This is going to be arranged by our team of doctors with symptoms and what they need to do to help them come out in those situations. The nearest hospitals, as you can see, provide hospitals with their feedback as well as location to help people come out where make decisions about health services they want to attend to. And the USSD, we are looking like to have the 911 of emergency with a USSD feature for people in rural area. Then what are the methodologies we would apply in achieving this? We are going to design an API. We are looking at having a mobile app. So as we are doing this, concurrently, we'll be looking at getting data to help us achieve this. With our team of software developers, we would come up with production of the application as well as hosting of the application. Then professionals that will be involved, medical personnel, will sort them out, and we'll also have collaboration with third-party services, certification. There are third-party services, that of professionals, as well as the bulk SMS with the USSD feature. We are looking at a whole nearly 1.8 million to achieve this application. Then what is our target audience? We are targeting rural dwellers. The hospitals are coming into place because these are the people providing these features for rural dwellers. Then we are looking at scaling this application at the long run to capture urban dwellers as well. We will provide instant medical service, mitigate the issue that has to do with medical negligence, and we are also looking at having a premium feature whereby users will just pay 1,000 naira to enjoy all features. For the free version, they could just have maybe 2 or 3 monthly calls for a month, just to encourage them to see the importance of using our app. Our marketing strategy, like we pointed out, is canvassing through villages, also going through communities to share our idea before the alpha stage of the app comes into play. At the end of this application, we must have targeted the rural dwellers, tell them situations that are localized to them, how they could do to manage with it. At the end of the day, we would have provided alerts in forms of life information that they need to get to be up to par with outbreaks and pandemics. Rural dwellers will be exposed to services when it comes to emergency services, and we are going to improve to have a seamless module such that people will have healthcare facility. So we are looking at Edo First Aid to be one of its kind, a unique one that would ensure that citizens, not in the urban area, but rural dwellers, will have very good thing when it comes to health.
Thank you
here's
very
the
much.
team.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, we tasked them with the responsibility of developing 4 people in the rural areas, and we're very, very glad that we're seeing these ideas. Coming up next Team Irate Care. Put it up for Team Irate Care.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Emmanuel, and this is my teammate here, Chisom. So we are just a team of 3 developers. We came about this solution, diabetic retinopathy detection on Irate Care. And why are we solving this problem? So why are we solving this problem? So the first thing is that I once had a friend, father, who experienced this problem, and the issue was because it was not diagnosed on time. So I came up with this solution of, why can't we just build a solution that can easily solve this problem? It has been done elsewhere before. It has been done in USA before by Retina AI, and this is the first of its kind. If we eventually win and scale up this idea, this will be the first of its kind in Africa. Okay, so just a little background of diabetics problem in Nigeria. So as for WHO, actually show that Nigeria suffered from over 11.2 million people suffer from diabetes, and 1/3 of those people that suffer from diabetes suffer from this disease, diabetic retinopathy. It's come across in different stages. Now, and over 1 million people die from diabetic retinopathy directly from WHO data. And it shows that if we are to go by WHO data, where 480 million people suffer from the disease, diabetes, we can say that over 7,000 or 7,800 people die directly in Nigeria from diabetic retinopathy. So it is not just a case of you are going blind, it's also a case of you can die of it. Now, what is the cause of it? The cause is that most people that die of this case do not easily get the diagnosis of it. So they are living with diabetes and they don't know that it has crossed towards diabetes mellitus stage. And unfortunately, before going for diagnosis, waiting for the ophthalmologist to come up with, okay, this is their scan, after doing a fundus scan or everything, they've died off. Or because one thing is that there was no case of adequate detection of the disease and it has already eaten up on them. So we've come up with this simple solution. What it is solving is that this solution can be used both in a rural and urban area where they can just get your fundus images of your retina scan and plug it to our AI system. Now, the AI system we built an AI system where it can be easily integrated into any fundus image scanner, or it can be integrated using an app. So once you just go into the application in which the AI model we built, you can easily upload the fundus scan and you easily get your result and diagnosis. Now, the reason is that why people die easily from this disease is that most times, once they've gotten the scan already, a technician takes the scan. And in the case of Nigeria, we have over 700 ophthalmologists that take care of over 200 million people. And according to WHO, for every ophthalmologist that we have, it's respective to 50,000 citizens. Now, in Nigeria, we have over 77.5% deficiency. And the case of migration away from the country, from UCH, we gathered that over 600 people directly from University College of Health Hospital in Ibadan. 600 doctors left. And we've now ascertained, okay, among them, we are very, very sure that some percentage of them will be ophthalmologists. It means how we are even having an issue of even training new set of doctors. We have people, a larger percentage of them leaving. Hence, there will be what? There will be more problems caused. So this problem solved the case of once the technician has diagnosed the problem, it's a very easy problem. You can easily plug it into our AI system. It gives you a result. Instead of you waiting for an ophthalmologist to come and diagnose, take over times of probably most time 2 to 3 days for you to get your result, you get an instant solution to this. Now, so we've been able to build an AI model that was able to get an accuracy of 98% accuracy. And in the area of AI, or in the area of medical, most times we try to check the accuracy. So it's not as if you are going to present a solution, or you are trying to make a presentation for someone that has health challenges, and most of what you are giving them is not giving us a perfect result. So we are trying to optimize and build a perfect system that would obviously beat a normal trained ophthalmologist on this. So this is a simple project flow of how it works. It's very easy. Once you go to the web app, you just upload an image. The backend validates the your input model, and it gives you your result. So the first there shows that, okay, the person does not have diabetic retinopathy, and if it is true, there are different stages of diabetic retinopathy, then it gives you what? Your result. Now, this is our solution. So what we are building is an AI detection system that is readily available. Yes, so we are actually working on plugging it into like an embedded system. So once you make the scan directly from your fundus scanner, you get your result directly from an embedded system in it. So it is easy and very cost effective. It is the first of its kind in Africa. It is fast and very secure. You get your result immediately. So there's no case of probably you're coming back after 3 days for you to get your diagnosis. And what we're also working on, it is how we can also transfer this solution to other medical imaging problems. So we know that there are different range of problems in the health sector, and how we can also use artificial intelligence to also solve this problem. Yeah, so in conclusion, so many ophthalmologists trained in Nigeria, we mostly have this issue of rural and urban migration. And most of the ophthalmologists are mostly in the urban area. So what we're trying to do is, the solution is what can also be used by the rural people also. So there's no disparity in which, okay, you have to travel down to Lagos or go down to Lutz or go to UCH before you can get an ophthalmologist to come and treat you. It's something we can have down here at UBTH, or we can have it at anywhere across any hospital in Edo State, Nigeria. So that is major thing we are solving in this problem here.
Amazing.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Amazing, amazing. Using artificial intelligence. Wow. All right, one last team, and then we'll be done with this session. Let's invite Alpha Byte. Alpha Byte. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Usayo Abo Omoyikeme James, an allergy in her.